Hello, boxing fans around the world. Thank you for joining me once again here on Talkin Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today. And although I'm going to conclude this particular edition of Talkin Fight with a brief little story about Eddie Hearn and some of the comments he made prior to Daniel Dubois and his victory over Filip Hrgovic, with respect to him potentially fighting, not Eddie Hearn, that is, but Daniel Dubois potentially fighting Anthony Joshua. So before we get to that juicy little item, let me start off with a humdinger. I mean, I can't believe this one. Okay. So the Indian Boxing Federation has agreed to join World Boxing. Okay. They've agreed with the International Committee and think it's a good thing. And it is, seeing World Boxing is the only chance that boxing will see the light of day in LA in 2028. But what follows is just an absolutely astounding story coming out of the IBA, the former people who used to represent the Olympic boxing contenders. Anyway, let's have a quick read here. Here we go. Indian Boxing has announced its support for the new organization, but the IBA has yet to receive an official resignation and considers the failure to provide an explanation an act of cowardice. The reason for this sudden and unexpected change could be the IOC's threat to ban boxers from LA 2028. Indian boxing has changed sides. The Boxing Federation of India, the BFI, announced last Friday its intention to align itself with the International Olympic Committee and join World Boxing. The move marks a departure from the IBA after several decades. The first to be surprised were the members of the IBA who learned of the maneuver announced in Thailand. They said, "We were very disappointed that there has been no communication with us so far. It's just a matter of common decency to let us know what they're doing. It goes against their responsibility. They've not discussed it with us, their boxers, or their international technical officials who support the IBA," said the IBA's General Secretary, Chris Roberts. The BFI's resignation has not been formally submitted. In fact, its president, AJ Singh, remains the vice president of the IBA. The recent threat by the IOC to ban boxers from national federations that remain within the structure of the IBA is the reason for this decision. According to Roberts, they are panicked and scared. But he maintains that the IOC will not carry out this threat. I don't believe it. They're not capable. They've never restricted the boxers. They have controlled their own destiny. And so it goes on. It's kind of funny because I constantly tell you this. It's all about money, all right? So let me just rock and roll with the last paragraph here. The IBA Secretary General claims that the Indian Federation's decision not only hurts itself, but its own boxers. Roberts points to an abdication of responsibility on the part of the BFI, which is failing to meet several requirements in this resignation and incorporation into World Boxing. He said, "They signed a contract with the IBA and still owe us host agreement payments for the 2023 Women's Championships in Delhi. It's $1.2 million or 1.1 million euros. They have only paid half of it in the last 2 months. Of course, their boxers are the ones who suffer from this non-payment. Their prize money depends on these fees." Read into that what you will. All right, let's move on to one of our favorite featherweight contenders out there. We've talked about him often, but haven't mentioned his name in quite a while. WBO number 4, WBC number 7, IBF number 12. Featherweight Bruce Shu Shu Carrington, 11-0, 7 knockouts, is on the brink of a world title opportunity. But first, he'll need to overcome tough Jose Vivas, 23-3, in a 10-rounder scheduled for ESPN this Saturday at the theater at Madison Square Garden. Carrington Vivas will serve as the co-feature to the junior middleweight showdown between Xander Zayas and former world champion Patrick Teixeira. In other news, we see, let's have a quick little see if there's anything on Xander. Yes, there is. Undefeated super welterweight Xander Zayas, 18-0, 12 knockouts, by the way, who signed with Top Rank at 16 as their youngest prospect ever, is now 21 and headlining for the first time in New York City on the eve of this weekend's famed Puerto Rican Day Parade. Zayas must pass his toughest test to date against former world champ Patrick Teixeira. He's 34-4, by the way, as I said, at Madison Square Garden. Very good stuff. You might want to know also that the Walsh-Ortiz clash that you've all been clamoring about is sold out. Hollywood Fight Nights this Friday, June 7th at Chumash Casino Resort in Santa Ynez, California is sold out. And that was announced by Tom Loeffler, president of 360 Promotions. The show features unbeaten WBC number 10, IBF number 11 super welterweight King Callum Walsh. He's 10-0, 8 knockouts, defending his WBC Continental Americas title against Carlos Ortiz. And he's sporting a 14-5 records, and it's a scheduled 10-rounder, by the way. Let's move along to good old Joseph Parker and the heavyweights. Here's a story by Daniel McGlinchey, okay? Joseph Parker is confident that the recently beaten former WBC heavyweight champ Tyson Fury will make the adjustments needed in his next training camp to come back to defeat undisputed heavyweight champ Alexander Usyk in their rematch, as we all know now, scheduled for December 21st back in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Parker feels that the 35-year-old Fury will adapt and improve his game to take care of business against Usyk. Unfortunately, says the writer, the boxing public doesn't see Fury capable of winning the rematch against Usyk. They feel he's lost his punch resistance and mobility and has become a caricature of the fighter he was in 2015 when he pulled off the best win of his career against Vladimir Klitschko. Against Usyk, Fury looked slow, bloated, weak, and out of shape despite having had back-to-back training camps to prepare. He was carrying a lot of excess weight around his midsection, and his trunks were pulled up even higher than usual to cover his waist. This was the second consecutive poor performance from Fury. In his previous fight, he labored to a controversial 10-round split decision against Francis Ngannou back in October. So there's one writer's comments, despite Joseph Parker saying Tyson Fury is going to make a comeback. Apparently he's not. All right, let's have a quick look at Frank Martin. Frank Martin, according to Chris Williams, is looking forward to dethroning WBA regular lightweight champion Gervonta Tank Davis. That's a fight taking place June 15th on PBC, on Prime Video, pay-per-view at the MGM Grand Garden in Las Vegas. And Frank's apparently unfazed by the doubters out there. He's the underdog. Martin, he's 18-0, 12 knockouts, likes that he's the underdog and that people are doubting him against Tank, 29-0, 27 knockouts. He views that as motivation to show them they were wrong about him. It's understandable why some people believe the 29-year-old Martin has zero chance against Tank Davis because he hasn't beaten any of the killers at 135. In Martin's last fight, he struggled to defeat Artem Harutyunyan in a narrow 12-round unanimous decision last July. Harutyunyan gave the Ghost Martin a boxing lesson through the first 8 rounds, but wilted in championship rounds due to the desperate fighter's late rally. If not from gassing out, Martin would have lost that fight, and he wouldn't be able to get this opportunity to challenge Tank for his WBA belt. Some feel that Martin isn't deserving of a fight against Tank, and the only reason he was selected is it's another safe fight for the Baltimore native, who's yet to face any of the killers at lightweight during his 11-year professional career. Wow. We're slinging today. All right. Says Frank Martin, I feel like I got a lot of things that the world, a lot of people don't expect that I got. I'm ready to go in there and capitalize off this moment, he said regarding his fight against Tank. Martin needs to put in the kind of performance against Tank that he put in when he previously defeated Michel Rivera back in 2022. That was the best showing of Martin's career. Again, a couple of years ago, against a fighter that some fans felt was destined for him to capture a world title and become a star. Anyway, it means everything, said Martin, what would mean for him to defeat Tank. It doesn't come by for a lot of fighters. Me going in there, getting it, changing the seat, dethroning Gervonta WBA regular status. It's a blessing to have that type of opportunity. Good luck, Frank. All right, let's have another good luck session here, courtesy of BoxingNews24.com. His Excellency, and although he doesn't like to be called His Excellency, I'm not going to start off this story by saying Turkey. His Excellency, Turki Alalshikh, wants to see WBA light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol fight David Benavidez and IBF cruiserweight champion Jay Opatia if he's victorious against IBF WBC and WBO champ Arthur Beterbiev on October 12th. Bivol, sporting a 23-0 record, 12 knockouts, hasn't seemed that interested in fighting either Optea or Benavidez for some reason, and some fans question whether he'll agree to fight either one of those guys due to the risk involved. Granted, Bivol might lose, but the payday will be nice, and he gets the opportunity to show the fans how good he is. Fans are never going to fight. Are never going to. Fans are never going to fight that out. I'd say figure. Fans are never going to figure that out. If Bivol keeps fighting guys like Malik Zinad, Linton Arthur, and Gilberto Ramirez. Bivol's got the perfect position going up against a 39-year-old Beterbiev, 20-0, who will be coming off a recent knee injury when he faces Bivol in October, and that gives Bivol a great advantage. Going up against young and healthy Opetaya and Benavidez will be a different story altogether for Bivol, and he might fall apart. Bivol will need to decide whether he wants to play it safe after the Beterbiev fight or take the risk of facing Opetaya and Benavidez. Alalshikh isn't asking a lot of Bivol by wanting him to fight Opetaya and Benavidez because those are fights that he should be interested in taking if he wants to fight the best. And what have we always said here on Talkin Fight? We just want to see the best fight the best. All right. Let's have a quick look here and see what else we got. Oh, yes, this one is a good one. This is for all you British fans out there because this matters to no one else in the world. But anyway, according to BoxingSocial.com, fourth-time super middleweight champ Carl Froch has delivered a damning verdict of the newfound home of boxing in Saudi Arabia, following on from the weekend's Queensberry versus Matchroom card that took place in Riyadh. Turki has quickly emerged as the most influential figure in the sport as he continues to stage the biggest events possible and begins to branch out to shows around the world. However, for now, each of Al-Sheikh's cards have taken place in Saudi Arabia as he seeks to promote his country through the medium of boxing. Within the last 9 months, Saudi Arabia has twice brought each of Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, and Tyson Fury to the kingdom, with the latter being involved in the most historic heavyweight contest of the century when he was trumped by Alexander Usyk last month. As a result, the widespread opinion is that Al-Sheikh's involvement is a huge positive for the sport as the best fighters on the planet finally fight one another, particularly in the heavyweight division, and the money and power that the Catalyst investor has will ensure that this theme is continued for years to come with a number of undisputed title bouts on the horizon. Although Froch offered a different opinion on the matter, explaining how the shoes in Saudi Arabia fail to captivate the fans in the same way that major events do on British shores, labeling the atmosphere at recent events in the Middle East as fucking shocking. I don't care what anybody says. People come back and forth, and people are stroking egos, agreeing with people when they say that the atmosphere in Saudi Arabia is good, that the atmosphere is okay. The atmosphere tonight in Saudi Arabia was fucking shocking, he said. That's all there is to say about it. Nobody was interested, and there were some good fights on there tonight, some good heavyweight fights. Nick Ball became world champion. Hamza Shiraz put on a performance, and it was a good show. People are sitting ringside on their phones. They're not animated, so hopefully that has closed the argument as to whether or not there's an atmosphere in Saudi Arabia. I don't want to keep banging on about it, but don't tell me there's an atmosphere like it is in Britain, like it is at the O2 Arena, the Nottingham Arena, Wembley Stadium. You can't beat the British crowd, the British fans, the hardcore, salt of the earth British boxing fans that get behind the fighters, the passion they have got. Al-Sheikh does not want to gatekeep all the sports top down purely for Saudi Arabia, by the way. We all know that. He may get on Froch's good side once the Madrimov-Crawford fight has taken place in the United States and the Joshua Dubois fight has been confirmed, which we'll talk about in a second, for Wembley Stadium in September. We had the press conference for the All-British Heavyweight Affair set to take place imminently in London. Okay, so for all you British fans who think you are the best in the world, there's some more remarks on your behalf. Heavyweight boxing star Deontay Wilder. This is according to a good old British paper called The Express. Heavyweight boxing star Deontay Wilder may have done well to heed Tyson Fury's past warnings about Zhilei Zhang's threat. And Anthony Joshua would do well to raise caution considering he's being touted as the potential next opponent for the Chinese ace. Now we just heard about Dubois, but let's read on here. In contrast to many boxers whose performances often dwindle around 35, Zhang has only seen an escalation in his career, an impressive feat given he's now 41. He savored the most significant victory in his career to date after notching a tenacious fifth-round knockout against the Bronze Bomber in Riyadh on Saturday. The victory expands Zhang's horizons exponentially, with speculation rife of a prospective face-off against a resurgent Joshua. But Daniel Dubois, the newly crowned interim IBF heavyweight champ, following his stoppage win over Filip Hrgovic, is also rumored to be a contender. Fury himself, a seasoned pro at 35, already has a December rematch lined up against Usyk, who ended his unblemished record in May. The Gypsy King lavished praise on Zhang and made noteworthy comparisons between the two heavyweights when speaking to Dev Shani for Queensberry Promotions back in September 2023. Describing Zhang, he said, "I think he's a very tough opponent, and he's a big southpaw punching man. He's not like Usyk, a feather duster jibbing and jabbing around the ring. This man is trying to take your brains out. He's 6'6" tall and 20 stone. He's a very different customer and very dangerous." Anyway, the so-called feather duster put paid to that characterization, having surprised the boxing world with a split decision win over Fury in Saudi Arabia. But Joshua, 34 years of age, seems less interested in a showdown with Zhang, who boasts a record of 27 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw, which I pointed out yesterday. AJ has been built up for a long-awaited transatlantic showdown against Deontay Wilder, but that appears increasingly unlikely as Wilder, 38, has suffered 4 defeats in his last 5 bouts. By contrast, Joshua seems more receptive to the idea of taking on fellow Brit Daniel Dubois, following his surprise win over Hrgovic. "I've got to pick him off one by one. It's not going to be easy, but that's my mentality," said the Londoner after watching Saturday's Riyadh card from ringside. "So come on. He, Dubois, has worked his way up the ladder. We'll see what happens in the near future." It is possible the insightful comments from Fury pertaining to Zhang have resonated with former world champion Joshua, and despite his long bubbling rivalry with Fury, this is one occasion where he may do well to listen to the Mancunian's comments if he's to preserve his recent run of winning form. So let's jump along very, very quickly for our last little comment here regarding Eddie Hearn. I can't stop myself. Boxing promoter Eddie Hearn has seen his plans for Anthony Joshua's future disrupted after Daniel Dubois pulled off an audacious upset against Filip Hrgovic. Hearn's comments claimed just hours before the fight that Dubois is not an elite heavyweight. Quote, end quote. Were thrown back in his face after the Britain's stoppage of the Croat contender Hrgovic, while a potential bout between Joshua and Deontay Wilder also now looks impossible. The Bronze Bomber suffered his 4th defeat in 5 fights after a one-sided 5th-round knockout at the hands of Zhilei Zhang. The pair clashed at Queensberry, cleaned house in their 5v5 tournament against Matchroom. We talked about that yesterday. Don't need to go over it again. During his appearance on a recent podcast, the Matchroom boss said, and I quote, "I thought to myself, who are we going to make captain? Who's the biggest name on the team? Who's going to last? Who can we give us drama like no one else can? Who can spin this narrative even further than that? Not just as Wilder in the team, he's the captain of the team." Because I got to pump Wilder up, because you can become deflated in this game real quick. Well, even in life, all of a sudden, you don't think you're the man anymore. And I get into him. I pump him up. I make him that bad motherfucker once again. And I want him to go in there and knock Zhilei Zhang, spark out the double points, maybe even come up from behind and win the whole tournament. This is actually all what he said before the tournament. In actuality, almost the opposite ended in materializing in Riyadh as the Queensberry clan completed a 10-0 clean sweep over Hearn's Matchroom mob. Zhang, Dubois, Hamza Shiraz, played key roles in that result as they each collected knockout victories to further boost their points tally on the night. Needless to say, that's not how Hearn expected things to pan out, particularly in regard to Dubois' dominant performance against Hrgovic. Hearn's pre-fight comments suggested that was one matchup in which he was particularly confident of his fighter's chances, dismissing Dubois as a top-tier talent in his assessment. That's great, isn't it? People have talked about Hrgovic for a long time as an elite heavyweight, he said, but the biggest win in his career is Zhang in a fight that could have gone either way. His mother passed away a couple of weeks before. I don't think he was 100%, but looks at Dubois. He just beat Gerald Miller. Decent. He fought Usyk and had him over in a marginal low blow. It could have gone the other way. And he beats Alexander Usyk. He boxed Joe Joyce. He's been around now, Dubois. But I do think Hrgovic is an elite heavyweight, and I don't think Dubois is. Put that down as another piece of Hearn's analysis that proved wide of the mark, as Dubois left Hrgovic a bloody mess to claim the interim IBF title. The referee waved off the bout with Hrgovic on a stool heading into the 8th round, marking the biggest win of Dynamite's career to date and likely changing Hearn's perception of his talents in the process. I'm sure it did. All right, sports fans, thanks for joining me here on Talkin Fight. Appreciate it very much. Remember, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell for me, and don't hesitate to hit that beer me button too. I don't mind the money. Let's have a quick look, see if there's anything else going on the horizon. Doesn't seem to be. All righty, we'll catch you again on talkinfight.com. Thanks very much for joining me.